All right, kiddos, here we are back again, working on questions 11 through 16 for the practice test for Unit 3. Question 11, the original price of a waffle maker is $16. If Ebony uses a coupon and the price is decreased 30%, what is the price Ebony will pay? I'm going to read it a second time, pull out the important information. It says the original price of a waffle maker is $16. That's its total amount. If Ebony uses a coupon and the price is decreased by 30%, what is the price Ebony will pay? All right, this is different than the question that we just answered a couple of questions ago about the gaming system and the headset, because in that question, it asked you how much would you save. This question is asking you the opposite. It's asking you how much you're going to pay. So there are a couple of different ways to look at this. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to retrieve that formula that helps me with percents, which is part over whole equals percent over 100. And remember, we could also use is over of equals percent over 100. They both mean the same thing, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just work through this as if I were a 7th grade student and I were going to take these numbers and kind of pop them into this formula. And when I'm done doing that, I really want to think about what my answer represents, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and figure out where these numbers go. 30% is easiest to start with because it's got a percent symbol on it. So I know it's going to go in where the percent sign is. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this as a fraction is equal to something over 100. This is sort of the setup that you want to start with. I'm going to put my 30 on top of 100 because that's 30%. And then I have to figure out, is 16 part of it or is 16 whole, all of it? And the original price of the waffle maker is $16. That's the total amount of the waffle maker. So that's my whole. So I'm going to put 16 down here. I'm going to drop the decimal sign at the decimal point in the 2 zeros because they're just fillers. Right, so that means that this one blank on top of 16 is my unknown. I'm going to call it X. Right, I'm going to go ahead and solve this problem like we've been doing in the other problems. I'm going to ask myself, how do I get from 16 to 100? I can't think of what I multiply 16 by to get to 100. So I'm going to do it the other way. I'm going to go ahead and use cross products. I'm going to multiply 16 times 30 and say that that's the same thing as multiplying 100 times something. Okay, when I do the math, I'm going to do 16 times 30. Again, you should be using Desmos, but I'm going to use my handheld calculator here because it's easier. I get 480 equals 100x. To solve that equation, I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And I get x equals 4.8 or 4.80. Okay, I'm going to remember that we're talking about money because we're talking about buying a waffle maker. All right, so now I need to interpret this information. All right, so X is $4.80. And so what does that mean? Well, I'm going to show you what that means. All right, I'm going to put X over here. I'm going to say that it equals $4.80. And I want you to take a look at this proportion. All right, sorry, that's not a dollar amount. That went in the wrong place. This is a dollar amount. Okay, so I want you to just look at this fraction and I want you to compare the parts. All right, so 100 represents a percent. So 100% of the waffle maker was $16, right? So what does that mean that the $4.80 represents? Well, what that means is that that $4.80 represents 30% of it. 30% of the $16 waffle maker is $4.80. That's how much that Ebony saves. She saves $4.80. She saves 30% off of it. In order for me to figure out how much she's going to pay, I need to now take the original amount of the waffle maker and I need to subtract the discount, the amount she saves. All right, so the original amount of the waffle maker was $16. And from that, I'm going to subtract the 30% that she saved, which was $4.80. Okay, so I'm going to take my calculator and I do 16 minus $4.80, and I get $11. I get 11.2. So we're going to interpret that. Remember that this place value right here is empty, so we can place an invisible zero there. And that means she only pays $11.20 for that waffle maker, right? Letter C is your answer. I want you to be aware that one of the answer choices was that $4.80. They're going to do this to you on purpose. As a matter of fact, one of the answer choices on the actual test is the decreased amount, is the sales that they save. So you got to be really aware of a couple of things when you're working on this. You always want to stop and think, what does your answer represent? All right. The other thing that I want to say is, if you just think about this logically, I'm going to clear out all of this. So you might want to pause the video right now and copy down what you want. Okay. But I want to talk about, like, if I have a $16 waffle maker and it's half off and it's 50% off, that means I'd only be paying $8 for it. Right. So if I have a discount that is less than half off, that means that I've got to pay more than $8 for that waffle maker. So anything less than $8 doesn't even make sense. It's not possible. So I could eliminate choices A and B just by using my simple logic skills. And then when I get to that answer of $4.80, it's going to kind of prompt me to know that I'm still supposed to do something to that number. Okay, so that's just another kind of thought of how you can use your logic skills to help you with that problem. All right, we're going to move on to number 12. Number 12 is a percent problem, so I am going to use that normal setup of part over whole equals percent over 100. And again, remember, I'm going to use this all the time, but there are other ways to solve these problems. So I'm going to now try to figure out where everything goes. Is over of is another way to look at this. All right, so I'm going to read the problem, and it says, what percent of 40 is 22? Okay, so the first thing I see is what percent. That means that this is what I do not know. So I'm going to call that my variable. And I'm going to just go ahead and throw down my setup here. It's a fraction over something over 100. All right, so my unknown is the percent. And then of 40 and is 22. Okay, so that's why I use this is over of in that formula. It'll help you. So the number closest to the word is 22. That goes in my numerator. And the number closest to the word of is 40. That's going to go in my denominator, right? So if I'm saying what percent of 40 is 22, of 40 tells you that that's the total amount. That's how much you have. You have all of the 40, and you're trying to figure out what 22 is of that amount. All right, now some of you are going to say, hey, Scanlon, can't I just divide 22 divided by 40 and then turn it into a percent? And the answer is yes, you can. Right, but however, I'm going to do it the way that I've been doing it from the beginning. So I'm going to try and figure out how I get from 40 to 100. I don't know how to do that. So instead, I'm going to use cross products. I'm going to do 40 times x. And I'm going to say that's the same as 100 times 22. So now I'm going to go ahead and simplify this part. 22 times 100 is 2,200. And to solve this, I'm going to divide both sides by 40 to get x by itself. And 2,200 divided by 40 is 55. All right, so we're going to stop for a second and think about what that means. X is 55. I'm going to put that in up here next to the letter X. X is 55. So what does that mean? That means that 55 over 100, or 55% of, pardon me, 40 is 22. Right, that's what we just found out. So the correct answer is C. Pause the video, copy down what you want. Join me on question 13. Question 13, Toys for You is going to make a doll that looks like a girl. The girl is 4 feet tall. They are using the scale of 5 inches is equal to 2 feet. How tall will the doll be? All right, ladies and gents, we are now working with scale drawings. We are given a scale, which is the same thing as a ratio, a comparison of two numbers. They are comparing inches to feet. I just grabbed that from that part of the problem that says the scale of 5 inches equals 2 feet is being used, so I put inches over feet. All right, I am now going to use this information of 5 inches over 2 feet to create a fraction. 5, it goes on top because it represents the inches. 2 goes in the denominator because it represents the feet. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the other number from the problem. It says the girl is 4 feet tall. All right, feet go on the bottom. So in my new fraction, I'm going to make sure that I put my feet on the bottom. So I'm going to put 4 down here, which means that I am trying to figure out how many inches tall the doll will be. All right, the good news about this one is that they made it very easy for us to solve because I do, in this case, know how to get from 2 to 4. To get from 2 to 4, I multiply by 2. And whatever I do to the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. 5 times 2 is 10. And remember, our answer is in terms of inches. So that means that the doll will be 10 inches tall. C. Okay, let's go on to question number 14. I need to share a different screen with you because it is a special type of problem. Here we go. All right, so this question says, Mr. Clark asked the students in his art class to draw the figure below using a scale factor of 2. Then he asked students to tell him one of the new side lengths of the figure. Some student responses are below. So if you take a second to look at the picture and you take a second to look at the student responses, finally, you can look at the question that's being asked. It tells you to select all the students that answered Mr. Clark's question correctly. So we know this is a multiple different answer choice question. We can give 1, 2, or all 5 of these students might have done it right. So this becomes really challenging. We need to do the math carefully, right? And what is that math? Well, let's go back up to the problem and read it again. The original problem says, Mr. Clark asked the students in his art class to draw the figure below using a scale factor of 2. All right, what does that mean? Well, what you should know by now is that a scale factor tells you, and I'm going to type this for you, the scale factor tells you what to multiply all of the original numbers by. Okay, and there are a couple of other little tidbits of information I can give you about that. One of them is that when you're working with scale factor, if your scale factor is a whole number, or I should say if it's bigger than 1, it means that you are enlarging your picture, right? Because when you multiply anything by something that's bigger than 1, the number gets bigger. And when your scale factor is less than 1, like if it were a fraction, if it said the scale factor is 1/2, it means that you are reducing or shrinking the original picture. Because when you multiply something by something, when you multiply a number by something that's smaller than 1, your number is going to get smaller. All right, so we are going to have this original shape enlarge. It's going to get bigger. So what we do mathematically is we take this scale factor of 2, and we take all of the numbers in, we're going to call this a trapezoid, that's the shape, and we're going to multiply them all by 2. Okay, we're going to take each one of them, 3.9 times 2, 4.5 times 2, 3.1 times 2, and 2 times 2. We're going to do all of those math problems, and we're going to get the new dimensions or the new side lengths of that trapezoid once it's been enlarged by a scale factor of 2. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you that the top measurement of 2 inches when multiplied by 2 would be 4. I'm then going to use my calculator to do 3.9 times 2, and I get 7.8. I just happen to know that 4.5 times 2 is 9, and 3.1 times 2 is 6.2. All right, so these are the new measurements of the trapezoid once it has been enlarged by a scale factor of 2. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the list of student responses, and I'm going to either eliminate or circle any of the students that gave one of the right side lengths. So we'll start with Mark. Mark said that one of the side lengths is going to be 6 inches. Because I don't see the number 6 boxed anywhere, I know Mark's response was incorrect. Samantha gave a response of 6.2 inches, which was right here, which means Samantha did give a correct answer. Divya gave an answer of 7.8, which is right here, which means Divya got the correct answer. Chang gave an answer of 8 inches, and I don't see the number 8 boxed anywhere, so Chang did not get it right. And finally, Candace gave an answer of 9 inches, which is right here. Therefore, Candace also gave a correct response. Okay, the big important piece there is knowing what to do with the scale factor. And again, read this, you multiply by the scale factor. Go ahead and take down what notes you want. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and reshare for the last couple of problems. Okay, that was question 14. We're going to go on to question 15. Oh, that's bizarre. Question 15 is the same. That's strange. I'm going to go on to question 16. Maybe I've got the wrong question copied. We'll take a look. All right, question 16 gives you a scale drawing of a house. It says the scale drawing of the house shown below is a drawing using a scale of 1 inch equals 3.5 feet. What is the height in feet of the house? Okay, so again, I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to get scared about reading the question that I need to convert or anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of information they give me. I'm going to take the scale and I'm going to write it down. I'm comparing inches to feet. That's my setup. And in this piece of information given, I know that 1 inch is the same as 3.5 feet. All right, now I'm going to go to the picture and I'm going to pull out the information they give me in the picture. It tells me that the height of the drawing of the house is 8.5 inches tall, and my inches go in the numerator. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to write 8.5 inches in my numerator, and my denominator is what I don't know. Okay, now I've got a proportion I can solve. And again, I'm in good luck here because I know how to get from 1 to 8.5. I multiply it by 8.5. And whatever I do to the top, I'm going to do to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3.5 times 8.5. And I get 29.75. And what does that represent? That represents that the new house, the actual house in feet, is going to be 29.75 feet tall. C. All right, copy down what you need out of that one. And that looks like it's all the test questions that I have. If for some reason I did skip a test question, this test question number 14 is different than the one that I just did with you, I will add another video for that question. Okay, I might have duplicated a practice test question, I'm not sure. All right, ladies and gents, good luck, and rewatch this video as many times as you need to in order to be ready for the unit tests.